Hello, my name is Dr. Maya Byfield. My business is The Phenomenal STEMist. I'm so excited to be here in Orange County because it's where I live. I live in Apopka, Florida. And I decided to make this business because I saw a need for underrepresented students to be successful in STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, math. And the best way I can do that is just provide products for parents to prepare them, whether it's a book or online STEM camps or just video podcasting. My goal is to transform this community, especially those who are underrepresented. And the way to do that is to help parents understand their children's minds and basically develop them at different stages of their lives to be prepared for a successful STEM career. Thank you so much. That's why I'm here.
Hey, 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 it's the phenomenal STEMist. What's going on, everyone? I see you, those of you coming from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Please do me a favor and share this live stream today. I'm excited to be with my quad squad, my personal quad squad. Kamoy Harris, Howard Webley, and Bryant Goodine. I am Maya Byfield, and we are the phenomenal STEMist here for another year. We've been doing this for a year. Can you believe it? Over a year. Over a year. 2 years. 2 years with us was us three, Kamoy and Howard. Bryant started rocking with us this year. I can't believe it's been that long. Wow, it's crazy. Um, and I'm just happy that y'all are still sticking with me. We're gonna really talk about something very interesting. What's up, y'all?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. So the topic today is the 10-year reset. How STEM professionals actually plan their careers. And I feel like this is a very interesting topic. Since I created this new platform, 10-year really trying to increase STEM identity in those that are underrepresented in STEM. And all of you are special because you are successful in these types of careers. Did you ever intentionally plan your career 10 years ahead, or did it evolve?
I did.
Come on, you did. Talk to me, unpack that. How did you, like, you knew you were going to be a physician?
Yeah, since I was a little girl, I always said I wanted to be a doctor. Specifically, I wanted to do women's health. I didn't, I think I just like the idea of, um, delivering babies. I think that's probably just that was the fascination to me, but not really understanding the gamut of what women's health was. But that I once I started college. I kind of knew, how I'd already done the research. I knew how long it was going to take to even get to that point, and that would have been 12 years from the time you start college. So I had already had a plan. Now, how I function in women's health has evolved over time, but I kind of knew exactly where I was going and had a long term plan to get there.
And you had long term plans.
So
I
you
did too.
understood, hold on. So you understood where babies came from at an early age
Yeah.
and how they got out?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Since I was probably 5 or 6.
And you still
Wow.
wanted to
I
do
used
that.
to read a lot. Like, so I never got like growing up in a Jamaican family back home. You don't get the birds and the bees talk, right? That's not something that typically happens. But I got books, and I was a
Mhm.
reader. So I would
Reader.
I was reading ahead of my time, you know, from a young age. So I think that's where the fascination came from. And then but I know I do understand, and I'm also like that is not typical. Like having interacted with a lot of my friends and seeing different journeys, it's at least for medicine, it's not like that at all. Most people didn't even know they were going to do medicine, or you know what they were going to do in medicine. That evolved over time. I'm a little atypical in that regard.
So can we put a shout out for reading? Can we
Yeah.
can we stick a pin and talk about the importance of reading and reading early? It is it is critical. It is critical. I just saw an article that says that Gen Z is in college is having trouble reading full sentences right now. And yeah, yeah, yeah. Um Listen y'all, chil- number 1, before you start thinking about anything with math and science, language and reading is critical, especially in young ages. And it might even get you to start dreaming big and thinking that you're going to be an obstetrician, gynecologist, delivering babies before you even know. Most people know where they come from. So, yeah, I was similar. Kamoy, I had a 10-year plan, but I didn't have it so young. Like, I loved science. I knew I loved science, but I didn't know I wanted to be a scientist because most children I feel want to be pediatricians. You know, they want to be the career that they see normally around them, pediatricians, teachers. And so I wanted to be that, but I knew I loved science, and then people were like law because I love to argue, and I became the perfect blend of both. I became a scientist. A scientist is a physician and a lawyer blended into one. But I didn't know that. But I knew it by college, and so I planned my 10-year plan from college. I had a 10-year plan from college, and I had 5-year plans. You know, like I knew what classes I had to take years in advance. What about you, gentlemen?
Yeah, I absolutely knew that I was going to go into the sciences. I absolutely knew that I was a science geek. I absolutely knew um, that I just loved the environment. I loved biology. I loved um, everything just science oriented. Um, and then I also was just reading and reading and reading. And if I continue to plug, like my grandmother on my dad's side is a teacher, and you know she used to on her summer breaks, she would always come and stay with us in the States from Jamaica, and so our we had to continue. So school continued for us, like you
Mm,
know. So in the summertime when she came, she was always giving us the grade books and so forth for the coming year. So she felt a duty that she would continue teaching us so we were prepared for the upcoming year. And so one of her big things that sticks with me now, she would always say, like, once you can read, like you can do anything. Like once you can read, you can learn anything you want to learn. Um, and so she always said that. And so that's just something I instill in my kids now. I'm like, listen, for lower school, like for elementary school up to middle school, if you get all of that down, like if you can read, then there's no reason why you can't, be a top achiever in elementary school and middle school. I told him, I said, it's not gonna start getting it's not gonna start getting a little hectic for you until high school, so just read.
just
So
read.
but so for me, yeah, it was I always knew science. And then because it's not until Kamoy, listening to Kamoy, I'm like, oh wow, I really did have it planned. And I didn't realize it. I really did. I knew I've mentioned this before. I actually wanted to be an obstetrician when I was a kid. And when I was a little kid, I wanted to become an obstetrician. And just as a teenage boy, then when I started continue to read and, and find out and find out all that an obstetrician that's included with obstetrician, I was like, oh, maybe that's not for me. But and then I transitioned into science, and just into science, more scientific science. And when I got into high school, I knew that's what I want. I knew I wanted to go biology. And then while I was in high school, going into college, that's when I realized I wanted to focus on specifically microbiology. Once I
Mm.
saw, but again, it's like you mentioned, because I had the models. My sister was a clinical microbiologist, and so I knew I just wanted to do something more specific than just biology, because I felt like it was too broad. And so I wanted to have more of a potential career focus at the end of that. So I was kind of like, incremental planning as well. But I knew I wanted to. And then once I got into microbiology, I knew I wanted to do environmental microbiology. And so everything just sort of focused from there. But that was like the baseline all the way through. And that's literally where I ended up.
Mm.
And then when I got it into career, then I think I was sort of doing more so, like 5-year kind of planning and so forth.
Yeah, once you're in, you start doing 5 years. Yep, you start breaking it up. Yep. Bryant, did you?
Y'all have some very nice stories. Well,
Yeah, give us the real. Give us the real.
I'm here in the district. I'm not in the warm Florida area, and here the biggest player is the federal government. And most jobs were civil servant jobs: secretaries, teachers, police officers, firefighters, and then just government. So when I went away to college, I thought I wanted to be an accountant. Then when I saw how accountants didn't want to hang out with anybody, I was like, well, maybe I'll try marketing. Got a marketing degree, came back, and it was like, okay, what do I do? Because I got these student loans. So I thought about going into the military. I was trying to walk through any door that was open. And what opened was a job in public health. Started off as a secretary. And those who have watched this podcast in the past will know that. But as I began to I didn't feel like a secretary was who I was supposed to be. And no knocks on anybody. Staff assistants, secretaries, executive assistants are very important jobs, and they kind of know a little bit of everything. But I had an opportunity, as we mentioned, read. I had to read about substance abuse and mental health. I didn't know it. So when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, I like to help people. So I was able to transition that into a public health analyst job. And so from that point going forward, that's whatever door that I was supposed to walk through, I just honestly just let God open it. And I just walked through it and said, okay, I'm in it. Let's see where this will go. I've been fortunate to enjoy, to like my job now that I work with organizations that provide training or technical assistance. We can't say the word training anymore, but technical assistance to federally qualified health centers. Yeah, this is year 2.
Really? That's in the, so you can't say training now. Technical
Yeah,
assistance.
there's a lot of words because it's just how it is, and you learn to play the game the longer you're in it, and you learn to not get frustrated or anything like that. So definitely, I agree with everyone with the reading. I honestly did not know. I kind of said if I'm coming back home again, the biggest player, the biggest employer was the federal government. I didn't really think that I would ever be in public health. I thought I would just be like a management analyst. But I'm thankful that I'm in public health. Still have a job because of public health. And it's my way of helping individuals without being liable if something goes wrong. So, Kamoy, I acknowledge your greatness to be able to provide healthcare, knowing that each time you do something, somebody, if they don't like the outcome, they can try to come after your professionalism. So that's why I like my hands-off approach. I just send a report. So
Love that. And that's why I'm loving that you're here, because I love your story, and it really shows people, especially now where there's a big move towards workforce development. Now it's technical assistance. I still used to I think it's training, but okay. But trying to get people who are not necessarily graduates of STEM degrees still getting careers in highly economical fields like a STEM based career like public health. And your path is awesome. So some of us um had plans to be in STEM from the get-go. Some of us allowed doors to open and watch God move, right? But either way, it's both. It's an evolution, or it's a planned 10-year career. And so can you, those of you who are watching. What triggered your biggest career reset? Your biggest career reset. So we're talking about the 10-year reset. This is 2026.
I'll start. As mine is. My reset happened when I realized that when I used to work with the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, and co-occurring and homeless activities branch, I knew that my time had ran out once I realized that, one, I couldn't, my job title or my pay raise would stop at a GS-12. It was like, and everyone else, I was doing the same amount of work as those who were 14s and even some 15s. And I was like, okay, if you can't promote me, if I've reached my ceiling, it's time for me to go. And then secondly, some interpersonal issues between me and my supervisor. And I think what happened, if I go back, there's two sides. One, I might have been that guy to kind of almost self-sabotage, kind of get emotional at work, or reactive. Let me not say emotional, let me say reactive. And then secondly, I will tell everyone, if you have a job and they pay you for it, that is the transactional relationship. You don't need to have the, oh, well, I'm so thankful that you gave me a job that I'm going to do. I'm going to do so much more and not get compensated for it. Or I'm going to put my morality or my feelings aside because I feel indebted to you.
Mm-mm.
I had to have someone tell me, like, they're paying you for the job that you do. That's your transaction. Don't do anything more than that. Not that you can't, not that you won't, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you got frustrated and in frustration began to act out. So when I began to do that, I was like, it's time for me to go. It was time for me to leave. And I was blessed and fortunate that one of my previous team members went over to HRSA, the Health Resources Service Administration, and she was able to put in a good word for me. I still had to apply. I still had to interview, but that transition started me on the path that I'm on now. And I've been at HRSA for at least about 10 years. So right before my son was born. So I'm thankful, because when I look back at it, and I'm not sure if anyone read the news last week, but SAMHSA got hit pretty hard with the removal of over 2,500 grants, totaling almost like $2 billion. Now, of course, it's been reversed, but I know the people that were there, and everywhere that God has sent me. When I look back on where I came from, those places either were devastated, they were removed. So again, following his path, going through those doors. So again, to your question, I saw the writing on the wall when I began to self-sabotage and react instead of methodically think about my next steps.
Biggest career reset. I think with me, and you guys can go after, it was early in my career. It was when I decided what I was going to do. I had my PhD, and I could have gone in two directions. I could have gone multiple directions: government, pharmaceutical company, academia, and I was running from academia. I was running towards government. I was hoping to get a job maybe in Maryland, in in the DMV area, Brian. But the door wouldn't open. The door wouldn't open. And I was trying to get into the pharmaceutical realm in Pennsylvania. I didn't like Philadelphia area. I didn't like it. I wasn't happy there. And so I decided to just come back home to Florida and take an adjunct position. And I'll never forget it. I was making, I think I made a total of $11,000 that year. I was living at home with my mother. Yep. Sold everything I had, living at home in a room in my mother's house. And I only taught one class a semester. So that's why I made that little, because I was still trying to get back to the DMV. But God had another plan, and he just closed the doors. And I really do love teaching. What's crazy is I wrote in my essay for graduate school. I wish I had access to it. I probably will ask Einstein to send it to me. I wrote that I wanted to be an anatomy and physiology professor. I wrote it in my essay for graduate school. But somehow I was trying to chase the money. But God had another plan, and he had to. My reset was wipe me out of everything, humble me totally, and then he set me on fire. The next year, I got a tenure track position, and the rest is history. And that was 18 years ago. Yeah. What about you guys, Howard or Kimoy? What triggered your biggest reset? So mine was closed doors.
Yeah, I think mine was kind of a closed door situation as well. When I lost, it wasn't my first job, it was my second job. I got laid off, and I was like, wait, doctors can lose their job?
Oh, wow. Like, that's what I'm saying. I was like, what? Were you a physician at the time?
Interesting.
Doctors can lose their job without doing anything wrong? It's like, what is happening? So that is when and of course, I mean, luckily I was a big saver. You know, I never inflated my lifestyle, so I was okay. But I also realized that that was when I was like, you cannot rely on just one thing to make money. I think, you know, I will always, I said I will always be a physician. I love what I do. That will never change. But I started to, I guess, diversify and branch out into doing other things, other ways of, and, you know, some of it is I use my degree, other things is something completely different. But, and it was never something that it's not something we usually get taught growing up, right? You get taught to go to school, get an education, that career, whatever career, and that's what makes you the money, and that's it. And that's when I was like, okay, you need to, you love medicine, you want to be a physician, you want to work in women's health, but you know, you cannot be in a situation where the rug gets pulled from under you again, and you're like, wait, I don't have a job, or I don't have another source of income. Yeah. So that is how, and that happened when I came to Florida. That's when things started changing for me in terms of backing off of my regular clinical work and doing other things, other sources of income. I encourage it. Perfect.
Yeah, love it. And sometimes you got to get hit in the face. You got to get, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's Mike Tyson. Like, wow, that's an amazing story. That is I did not know doctors could get laid off. Seriously. I thought they were in high demand. That is.
Yeah, it wasn't even like I'm like, I didn't do anything. They literally said, oh, this is without cause.
Let me chime in on that. In my lens in the federal government, that happens more often than not when organizations either lose funding or their cost, like their operating cost, is just so dependent upon dependent on funding, and then that supplemental funding, so that when it dries out and they didn't pre-plan, they have to let go of cut certain services, and they will cut. So yes, this is the first time I'm hearing a doctor say that she got fired, but it is commonplace, especially in organizations that get grant funding. If they don't really plan and forecast, like, how are we going to create programmatic income in order to keep this going? I'm gonna say that might have been a reason.
I feel it's coming soon again. I feel like we're in that territory. Howie, you want to say something? What
Yeah,
triggers
yeah,
your biggest reset?
yeah. I had about two of them, two major ones. Um, you know, the since we're in 26 now and it's pretty much official, so I'm currently my second one is just coming to the realization. So I'm in early retirement right now from my federal work that I had been doing for 25 plus years um, as a microbiologist, as a regulatory scientist. And so I am in social and behavioral health now. Um, and so studying for clinical mental health counseling. And so, as Kamoy mentioned, like one of the things is a diversified sort of effect. Um, for this last one that I'm in so far, it's really just, I feel like um, introspection, just introspection, and really sort of recognizing that you are a more diverse individual, a more diversified, you have different aspects to yourself. And I think for me, it was just spending time with God and just also just seeing some of the other areas that I was, and I said I was hugely into science, right, from a kid, right. But there's this other aspect of myself that always existed, where I was always into helping young people. I was always into helping young adults. I was always into just counseling folk and just being there and encouraging. And that was always been the other aspect of myself. And and when it came to like what I felt like was actually more so feeding me, more so, pushing me, more so, nurturing my inner self, it was really more so that work. And and I felt like I had reached a point where the work that I was doing was comfortable. Um, when I say the work, I mean the paid work that I was doing, the regulatory science that I was doing was comfortable, and it was a God given experience. I mean, the work that I went into, I had been in there all that time. I got in right out of undergrad, and it had been nurturing me all that time. And actually, it provided me the opportunities to nurture the other aspects of myself. So I was financially secure enough to be able to share myself with the
Ministry.
community,
Yep.
through ministry and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just through, okay, well, Howard, you're and this is what I feel a lot of people will go through, where you reach a point where you're like, well, why am I thus? Like, why am I still not fulfilled? Why am I what's I'm doing this, I have this, God gave me this, it's very, very obvious, but yet I'm still not fulfilled. And it's through searching myself out with him, he showed me some other aspects of myself that I needed to and really desired to develop. And so a lot of times this awesome STEM, the skills, abilities that you have, and this awesome STEM opportunity that you've been afforded can also provide a nice foundation, especially financially, can provide a nice foundation for you to develop other aspects of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's so the initial one that happened before this one was me going along my own business as a regulatory scientist and looking at the other aspects of what my colleagues were doing and the other aspects of what the agency that I worked with was doing. And then also realizing that I was multifaceted. So I actually wanted to go away from the bench. It was something I wanted to explore and challenge for myself. So another thing is just, challenging yourself.
Challenge yourself.
And so the challenge that I wanted to place on myself at the time was doing field work. And so I had been on the bench for about 7 years coming out of school. And then I wanted to explore doing the field work and being, again, because I realized I was a more multifaceted person. And I really believed in what we were doing, the work that we were doing and the public health impact. And I wanted to be a liaison. I wanted to put myself in that position where I become a liaison between the
Board.
agency the regulated, areas, in regulated industry. So that was a niche that I occupied for a good amount of time. It was about 5 6 years, and then when actually returned back to the bench, and then I was able to occupy both spaces, and I realized that that was actually more me. Um, and then I just reached another area of evolving.
Yeah, you just challenge yourself.
Hmm.
Take the setbacks and adapt and evolve and challenge yourself to be better. That's what I'm hearing from all three of you guys. All right, what advice would you give your younger self? I put year 0. Maybe I meant 10, but whatever. What would you say to your younger self? I would tell my younger self, don't get distracted off the small stuff. Like, you're going places, young girl, and every now and then somebody's going to try to put a wrench in your path, and you're going to get distracted. Don't get distracted. Keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward. That's what I would tell my younger self, because you can waste 5 years of decision making by getting distracted, you know? So that's what I would say. What would you tell your younger self?
Can I stick a pin real quick?
Sure.
And I guess this is probably isn't part of the question, but I feel like it's worth, like, would your younger self have listened to you?
Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I think if I was a little bit more specific to what the distractions could be, I think that like, if I could, if I told her, listen, this is gonna happen, don't do it. I think I would. I think I would listen. I think I
Yeah.
would.
If you know the outcome, yes, you're gonna listen.
Yeah, I think I would.
Because we don't know the outcome. That's why.
Yeah. No, no, no. So who wants to tell me what would you tell your younger self? Whether or not you would listen to yourself or not, what would you tell your younger self?
Stop caring what other people think,
Yeah.
and don't be afraid of change. Most times, well, not even all the time. All things work together for good.
Mm-hmm.
Work out just fine.
Yeah. How you know you're on mute, right? I don't know if you know you're on mute. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Brian.
I don't think I would listen.
You
So
would listen.
no, I know I wouldn't listen. I was doing a part of my not listening phase. I just started listening yesterday. Um, no, seriously, it would just be I'd be sliding my younger self the lotto numbers that I know. Just, just set yourself up right. No, honestly, I would just tell myself, not only it's cliche to say it'll be okay, but every decision that you make, it's going to be okay. You have not made a wrong decision this point, because even in what you think is a wrong decision, it's been a learning lesson. You now learn what not to do. Now you might do it again and the outcome might be a little different, but again, that's a learning lesson. So you just stay on this path. It's going to get you somewhere. May not be where you thought it would be, but just one foot in front of the other.
Word up. Yeah, I would have told her to buy JP Morgan Chase every month. Buy Microsoft. Buy it. Oh man, I wish I could tell my younger self. I wish I could tell my 20-year-old self what I know right now, much less my 10-year-old self. Man, they say youth is wasted on the young. That's what they say. Man, how do finances, lifestyle, and identity factor into long-term STEM career decisions? Finances, lifestyle, identity. How do they factor? I've been doing this. I'm really strong in this identity concept in my church as well as in my career. I just completed a project with some children on STEM identity. They're going to be submitting their work, or I'm submitting their work in the Presidential AI Challenge tomorrow. So proud of them. Just learning their identity in STEM, their STEM gifts, their STEM strengths. I feel like when you know who you are and what you can bring to the table, you will move forward. There's a level of confidence that it brings versus when you feel inferior versus when you don't think you belong. When you know you belong, when you know you're gifted in something, you're not afraid of anybody and what people say. It's critical. So, like, one of my major decisions were the type of classes I took in graduate school. And some of the worst enemies to African American students are advisors, unfortunately. When 'cause they try to deny you. They don't identify you in STEM. They give you a low STEM identity. So one of the advisors told me I shouldn't take general molecular genetics and was it gene expression together? No, biochemistry. Molecular genetics and biochemistry at the same time. Everybody, that is the core plan for everyone. But she obviously felt like I wasn't going to do well in it. And she didn't have a reason to believe that because I had a high GPA, right? I had a very high GPA and I took a lot of STEM courses from my freshman and sophomore year. I was prepared. I don't think she looked at she didn't look at my preparation. She looked at me and she decided. So it's so important, especially for underrepresented students, because people are going to not identify you in STEM and they're going to lower you. So fight against that. My financial life, man, I'm telling you, unfortunately, I think some of the wealthiest people are STEM professionals, but we're some of the worst financial decision makers. Um, Many of us get a lot of money, but we don't know what to do with it. And so I don't know how much it factors into our long-term decisions. Um, I'll leave that to you guys. But I feel like we might overdo our financial decisions and lifestyle based on the amount of money we make when we should make better financial decisions. Yeah. What do you guys think? What how do finances, lifestyle, and identity factor in?
I'm a I'm gonna pick up because I wasn't able to. I'm gonna answer. I'm gonna rope in the previous question because I wasn't able to put in. But what you said was key, and I was thinking the same thing along the lines of what advice I would give my younger self, which is just lean into. I learned it later on, and that's what fed into my previous answer was that lean into your gifts, talents, and abilities. Like really lean into what you do really well, and find out what those things are. Go through the channels of your reputable sources and people that you can depend on and who have your best interest at heart, people who love you and so forth. Lean into these advisings, these instructions, these you know people who really want to see you succeed, and figure out what really makes you tick and what you do well. If
Speaking of
you
which, you can take this QR code and it gives you a toolkit to find your STEM gifts. Sorry, go ahead.
Awesome, awesome. That's right on time. Wow,
Right
right
on
on
time,
time.
Howard. Thank you so much for the end. Go ahead.
And so yeah, because once that's a part of, especially when you're younger and you're really trying to figure out this whole thing, you need to, that's a part of your identity. That's a part of who you are. And the quicker you can find that out, this ties into even financial. It's an investment. It's a personal investment. The quicker you can figure out, who you are and what your talents are, then the more you can hone in on areas that will be beneficial for you. one of the things in regulatory science that we learn along the way is, and maybe this comes into different departments as well, but in our department, our agency, once you figure out what your niche is, we're always advised to figure out what your niche is, the area, because it's multifaceted in regulatory science. In these areas, there's a number of areas that you can really learn and understand and sort of develop, being a professional in and be known for that knowledge. So once you figure out what your niche is and what really bodes well, connects with your abilities and the areas that you really enjoy, and then you can become a professional. You can become a highly noted professional in that particular area, and that's one of the approaches that you can take. I was lucky being in a federal agency, so it's sort of the finances came. It starts off really slow, but once you're going up that GS scale, as you know, Brian, then it compounds, and you end up in a really good position. But again, like you said, you end up sometimes, especially when you start really young, you end up making some decisions. I got that car, I got that car, and I was like, no, I want the brand new one. I bumped the used one, you know. And these little decisions like that kind of, because it's sure, it's coming. But
Yeah.
as Kamoy mentioned, right, even when you are in a position that's commonly known as unbreakable, right,
Even that could happen.
anything can happen.
Yeah.
So you really want to be mindful of those things.
Yeah. So true. Last question. Well, did you guys answer that? No, this is y'all didn't
No,
answer the
I was
question
only
yet. Yeah. Come on. How do finances, lifestyle, identity factor into long-term STEM decisions?
It was. I don't want to say don't focus too much on the financial,
Hmm.
but I think it is an important point to make because I think some people go into certain careers thinking I'm gonna make a lot of money, so that's what I want to do.
Right.
And then yeah, you might make a lot of money, but then you're miserable doing it.
Right.
So just to kind of piggyback on what Howard had said earlier, like, what do you enjoy doing? Right? What is your passion? What do you feel your purpose is? Where do you want to fulfill that purpose? And how do you want to show up in the world? That is really important to figure out. There are many ways to make money doing certain things. Of course, I wouldn't encourage somebody to go choose something that is not, you're going to be struggling or you can't make ends meet. That's important too. But at the same time, the financial aspect of it should not be primary. I think that, sometimes you should be able to support yourself, but it should not be primary because you will be miserable. Um, and yes, I do think that probably the identity, figuring out how you want to show up is the most important part of this because you need to be able to lay down and sleep at night and be comfortable with the decisions that you made, and how you are showing up. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, they reflect your standards. Bryant, I lost you. You took yourself off mute, but I can't hear you. I feel like the mic is off. I can't hear you now. All right, we're gonna move to the next questions as we get that situated. What doesn't get talked about enough? What does not get talked about enough when planning for STEM careers? What would you say, man? They need to talk about this more. Um, I think when I was in college, it was all about grades. It was all about you know getting good grades. They didn't talk about the network. They didn't talk about how people in industries will use a social classes class or we call it fit, right? Um, well, he's not the right fit or she's not the right fit. This is especially for those who are underrepresented, those are students of color. Like, I'm really big on STEM careers and careers that involve skill set above social connection, because when they really need your skill set, they need licensed nurses, they need licensed medical physicians, they need licensed plumbers. Like, when they need the licensed individual, fit doesn't really matter. Like, they're trying to get the bodies, you know? But any other career where it's not licensed, that's why I encourage most STEM professionals, I mean students, to consider something that requires a license. But if you're not doing something that requires a license, you better learn how to connect with people, because they are going to choose you or not choose you based on how they feel about you, not your grades, unfortunately. Grades matter for the licensed. For the skill sets that they require a lot, they matter so much that are like, I don't care if you can't speak to me. You know how to create a semiconductor. Because there are a lot of people that can't speak at all, but have great jobs because they know how to build a semiconductor. So I encourage many of you to either get into those kind of hard skills where they can't be replaced, and your personality doesn't matter. Other than that, you got to learn how to deal with other people, especially people who are prejudiced against you. I don't think they talk about that at all. Personally, what do you think doesn't get talked about enough when planning STEM careers? You want me to call on somebody?
No, I was just thinking about this. I think probably how much support you're gonna need for probably a longer period of time. At least for medicine, you do require, at least 8 years of additional support. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with a whole lot of loans, unless you're
Mm,
coming from a wealthy family. You do require. I had, support from my parents even when I was in residency. So that's through college, through medical school, through residency. Like, residency was still a struggle. And even though you're getting a paycheck, it's not a lot. And your student loans. Um,
mhm,
and if you live in a high cost of living area like New York City, where I was, I I chose to live at home because it was so expensive.
right.
But I had that support system available. I know a lot of people don't have that. So you end up taking out just, a lot more loans just to sustain yourself for a longer period of time. So it's not unusual for people to come out, and $500,000 in debt. Yeah, some people have more. But yeah, somewhere between 300 and $500,000 in debt because it's a long period of time that you need support for.
And they don't really talk about that. They just say, "Oh, I want to be a doctor and I want to be rich." They don't talk about how little you make during residency and how much, like, I remember, this is back in the day, I think residents were making 70,000, 60,000, right? And you have people who are like seasoned garbage men in New York City making that same money, right? And it's like, what? If this is, especially in these days, don't go into something for the money, because there are multiple ways that you can make money if that's all you want. You got to know what your purpose is. And you got to know that it's a long road to medicine. And I feel like people say that is a long road to medicine, but they do it in the context of schooling. They don't talk about it in the context of residency after you become a physician and you're working and you're not making as much money as people think. And what tell me if I'm wrong, but I also think physicians have to look like they make a lot of money. So like am I wrong? like let's say you're not making a lot of money right now. You're in residency. You're only making 80,000. You make 70,000, which is still more than the average person. The average
Hey,
American
don't
makes
say only. That's a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. The average American makes about 40,000, but the average American doesn't have $1 million in student loan debt. Doesn't have $500,000 in student loan debt. But I also think like you feel since I'm a doctor, I have to look like I make 200,000 and I start behaving, I start spending on cars, I start spending on homes that I may not be able to afford, but because I'm a doctor, I have to be in that environment. Am I making that up? Is that true or not?
That is absolutely true, but that's why it's important. This goes back to what I said earlier. Stop caring what other people think. It doesn't matter. You don't have to look a certain way or have a certain kind of car or live in a certain neighborhood. Stop living above your means.
Period.
Get in trouble.
Period. Prepare for economic storms before they come. I'm reading this book called Total Money Makeover, and that's one of the critical pieces. Everybody's living high on the hog when there's no storm, but you know what Warren Buffett said, you know who's skinny dipping when the tide comes in. Meaning when the storm comes, it reveals. So prepare for it. The Three Little Pigs, straw versus brick. Yeah.
And
What doesn't get talked enough? Howard, you want to say something?
yeah, and what you said, come on, is so really vital. You know, you're speaking from personal experience, and a lot of times, even it's not just when you say people, like it's it's the environment, like it's the social constructs, the environment, the industries, everybody influences that. So they the industries, they also, because they know you're good for it, right? So
Right.
they push, these loans, or they push these opportunities onto you, even when you're not actually ready for it necessarily or positioned for it. And they sort of affirm your position, affirm your occupation and so forth. And you feel like, yeah, no, this is me. I'm good for it.
Mhm.
And that's not actually where you need. So you're getting it from so many different angles, affirming that you're the money maker, man. You could do it, my sister. You could do it. Just take this. You can do it. And that may not be the situation. So you have to really be able to put the blinders on and deal with what your situation really is. But I agree. My What we don't hear enough about: business acumen, personal individual leadership, skill development, and social interaction, emotional intelligence, these sorts of things. These are in the hard sciences. This is the stuff that everybody scoffs at. This is the
Yeah.
stuff, that's the stuff, the social skill, the social abilities. Those are the things that people, the soft skills, are the things that the hard science folk turn their nose up at, because they kind of, it's a little bit imbalanced, like what you were talking about earlier, Maya, about if you could build a semiconductor. Well, there's an imbalance with the mindset, because they're like, man, I could build semiconductors. Don't tell me nothing. Don't tell me how to talk to this person. Like, come on, man. You need me. So there's this
Arrogant.
arrogance that
Yep.
exists in the
Yep.
community, in the STEM community, for some, where it's like, I don't need to talk to people, as long as I can find this organism, and you have no one else who can do it like I do.
Right.
You need to, put that IDP away, put that individual development plan away that you want to put me on, because I'm all you need, and so that arrogance sort of needs, it'll get you to so the skill, the credentials, etc., will get you the job, but your development within that job, if you're not able to better interact with your coworkers, with your colleagues, with management and show that you're on the same page, show that you're willing to develop, that you actually can hear and you can learn and you can listen and you can follow instructions and you can be a team player and all of these various elements that I think they're doing a little bit better these days. In my studies so far, I'm starting to see there's a lot more
Push.
team work and collaborative type of
Yeah.
projects that are being done
Yeah.
in school now.
Yeah.
Because that was not when I was coming up. It was just, and I had that mindset. I was like, listen, man, I could find you all the unknowns. Like, leave me alone.
Right.
Like, and that's what I'm saying about my personal development was like, wait a minute, you're actually more than that, Howard. Like, you don't have to limit yourself to what you feel. So the industry, the field was informing me what I needed to be, what I felt I was supposed to be. And so the field was actually limiting who I was, what my identity really was, because I wanted to assimilate to what the field was, because I figured the field was, the science was who I am. And then I had to realize that I was bigger than that. So a lot of times it's the field, it's the social environment of the field that informs
That's
who
trying
you
to
are.
take a
And
hold of you.
yeah,
But you
it
gotta
skews.
resist.
Yeah.
Bryant, you have the last say, the final word.
Okay. I'll say this. What I wish I would have gotten in college, and I'll even say at the great Oakwood University, I wish someone would have told me countlessly that I am enough. That it wasn't like, as I'm going through freshman year, that you're enough. That whatever degree I then chose after doing the prerequisites, that I'm enough, because every decision post college was either me trying to prove to the world that I was enough. I would get a certain car in order to prove that I was worth having that car. I
Right.
would make certain moves because I had to prove to someone I didn't feel like I was enough. And it took, and something you said earlier, how youth is wasted on the young. What I know now, because as you know, as we get older, we begin to shed whatever the world thinks about it. We get comfortable in ourselves. When we're that young, we're not comfortable because we're still being molded. But someone could have told us, you're enough. So if you want to make money, no, you can, but you're enough where you are right now. If you want that fame, you'll get it. But right now, you're enough. And each day, you're still enough. So you don't have to go chase after it and do whatever you think you need to do in order to get it. If you want to be the best microbiologist, you're enough because of the skill set that you already have in you. The world may just add on to it, but if they don't, we know that we're comfortable in our own skin, in our own abilities, in our own spirit, that we're enough. And I think a lot of schools are afraid to tell people that, because even in college now, it's about chasing after a dream, chasing after something that was given to us at an early age, be it television, saying doctors were the best thing possible and minimizing teaching, or minimizing civil servant work, or, saying if you're in tech, you want to create the latest and greatest instead of just being the person that keeps the tech running.
Yeah.
We've glorified the outward and have left people a shell of themselves. So I wish that every college, every advisor, and I know I heard that advisors may, give you their goal, their vision, their own limitations and project it upon you and say, well, this path works for me, this is going to work for you. No, just tell that person, you know what, you are enough. And once you begin to feel that, then you'll know where you need to go, what fits you, because you are enough. We're going to be a positive influence in society. We're working, we're paying taxes, we're doing, we're helping people in various ways. But until we feel like we're enough and fulfilled, we're just empty. And we're going to keep chasing, making poor choices, not bad choices, poor choices, because we, deep down in our soul, no one has told us we're enough. Until we get old and we wish we would have had it 40, 50 years ago, or for some of us 20, 30. So those who are watching, I'm going to tell you that you are enough. You may not feel it, and you might have to tell yourself this every day. I am enough, until you can feel it. Because that's really all that we really need, is just to know that we're enough. That's it.
I am the phenomenal STEMist. And so are they. That was a powerful word. And we're gonna close on that. Goodbye, everybody. Everybody wave to the camera. Wave to the camera. Keep waving.